She was used to the stares, the whispers behind her back, and the cruel laughter that followed her through school hallways and crowded streets. Every day, she looked in the mirror and tried to find the beauty that others refused to see. People had labeled her with one word, asterisk ugly asterisk. It hurt deeply. But she learned to live in the shadows, quiet and unnoticed, until one day, something happened that changed everything. It was just another afternoon when he walked into the cafe where she worked, young, confident, and clearly someone important. No one knew much about him, except that he was a millionaire who had built his empire from nothing. Most people were too intimidated to even say hello. But not her. She just did her job, trying her best to stay out of the way. Still, something about her caught his eye, not the clothes she wore or the way she looked, but something deeper. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Why would someone like asterisk him asterisk pay attention to someone like asterisk her asterisk? But he did, not just with his words, but with his actions. What he did next was completely unexpected. He didn't offer her a handout. He offered her something far more valuable, belief. In a world that judged her based on appearances, he saw what others didn't. And slowly, with his support, she began to see it too. But not everyone was happy about their connection. Whispers turned into rumors, and soon the backlash started. People questioned his motives and mocked her even more. What happened next left everyone speechless, and what he revealed would shake everything they thought they knew about beauty, worth, and true success. And just when she thought she couldn't rise any higher, something even more incredible happened. Her name was Leela. She had grown up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, and no one ever let her forget how different she looked. It wasn't just kids at school. Even adults made careless comments that stuck with her for years. Her only escape was drawing, sketching faces and places she wished she could be part of. Art was the one place where she felt beautiful, where she could create a world that didn't judge her. But dreams don't pay the bills, so she worked quietly in the corner of a busy cafe, wearing a plain uniform and keeping her head down. The young millionaire Ryan had lived a very different life. He'd made his fortune through a startup that went viral when he was just 24. He was smart, driven, and always surrounded by people who looked perfect and talked like they belonged on magazine covers. But under all that glamour, Ryan felt something was missing. He saw through the surface. He'd been judged too, just in different ways. When he met Leela, he noticed how she avoided eye contact, how she moved fast to avoid being noticed. But her eyes, when they did meet his, carried something he hadn't seen in anyone else: raw honesty and quiet strength. He started coming to the cafe more often, asking for her section, ordering the same drink just to talk to her. Leela tried to stay distant. She didn't want to believe this attention was real. But Ryan wasn't just being polite. He asked about her art, her past, her dreams. And slowly, she started to open up. But their growing bond didn't go unnoticed. People around town began to whisper again, louder this time. And when someone from Ryan's past suddenly returned, things took a dark and unexpected turn that would change everything. The person who came back into Ryan's life was Melissa, his ex-girlfriend, a social media influencer with millions of followers and a perfect image. She had once been the face of his brand, always camera-ready, always saying the right things. Their breakup had been quiet, but not without scars. When she heard about Ryan spending time with a girl like Leela, someone who didn't fit the image they once built together, she didn't hold back. Her subtle posts and shady captions started appearing online. Photos of Ryan from the past, hints that he was being used, and comments that drew attention from gossip blogs. Leela saw it all. She tried not to, but it was everywhere. Her face, her art, even her past was suddenly being picked apart by strangers on the internet. People she didn't know were calling her a nobody and asking why someone like Ryan would waste his time on her. It hurt in ways she wasn't prepared for. Every step forward she had taken seemed to be dragged back by a world obsessed with looks, fame, and filters. Meanwhile, Ryan was caught between two worlds. His business team warned him to be careful, said his image was taking a hit. Investors were nervous, and the media loved the drama. But Ryan wasn't concerned about headlines. He was worried about Leela. She had already been through enough. He wanted to protect her, but he didn't know how without making things worse. And beneath it all, another story was unfolding. Leela's artwork, once hidden in sketchbooks, had started gaining attention online. A mysterious buyer reached out, offering her a deal she never imagined. But there was a catch, one that could either change her life forever or destroy the fragile hope she was just starting to believe in. The offer for Leela's artwork came from a well-known gallery in the city, one that often featured rising talent. At first, she thought it was a scam. Why would they want her work? But it was real, too real. They wanted to showcase her pieces in an upcoming exhibit, a night where critics, collectors, and influencers would all be watching. It could change everything. Still, buried deep in the contract was one condition that made her hesitate. They wanted to use her story, but not the real one. They wanted to spin a tale, clean it up, make her look like a before and after transformation, like she was only valuable asterisk because asterisk she was now associated with someone famous. Ryan urged her not to sign. He told her she didn't need anyone twisting her truth to make it more sellable. But Leela had never been offered a seat at any table before, and part of her wondered, if she said no now, would another chance ever come? At the same time, the pressure around Ryan was boiling over. Melissa had gone from subtle shade to full-on interviews, painting herself as a heartbroken ex and hinting that Leela was just a rebound. News outlets picked it up. Business partners grew restless. Some even threatened to pull out of deals. For the first time, Ryan's empire was shaking. Leela felt the weight of it all. The whispers in town turned into cruel stares. Even the cafe owner, afraid of the attention, asked her to take some time off. She went from invisible to targeted, and it wasn't fame. It was exposure, and it was cold. Then, just days before the gallery event, Leela received an anonymous message. One line, asterisk if you go through with this, secrets will come out. Asterisk, her hands trembled. She didn't know who sent it, or what they meant. Leela stared at the message for hours, her mind racing. She hadn't told anyone about the gallery deal, not even her closest friend. So how did this stranger know? The message didn't just scare her, it made her question everything. Was someone watching her? Was it a warning or a threat? She tried to push it aside, focusing on her art, preparing for the big night. But something about the message stuck with her, especially the word asterisk secrets. Asterisk, what secrets? She had nothing to hide, or so she thought. 2 days before the exhibit, she went to Ryan's place to find him sitting quietly, eyes fixed on a document. His usual calm energy was gone. He didn't notice her right away, and when he did, his face dropped. He looked like someone carrying a weight he couldn't put down. She asked him what was wrong, and after a long pause, he handed her a folder. Inside were emails, texts, and a contract she'd never seen before. It turns out, Melissa wasn't just spreading lies online. She had found a way to get involved with the gallery, pretending to be a silent investor. She was backing the event Leela was about to attend. And worse, she was pushing a new narrative, that Leela was a social climber using Ryan to launch her art career. The gallery, chasing publicity, was playing along. Leela felt sick. It wasn't just about art anymore. It was a setup. They wanted to use her pain, twist her story, and profit from it. Ryan begged her to walk away from it all, to expose the truth. But if she did, she might lose the one opportunity she'd ever have to show the world who she really was. And then came another message. Asterisk, you are not the only one with a past. Asterisk, the night of the gallery exhibit arrived, and Leela stood outside the glowing venue with her heart pounding. The crowd inside was buzzing. Critics, influencers, even news outlets had shown up. Her art lined the walls, but she knew most eyes were here to see her asterisk. Not for the right reasons, but for the drama, the gossip, the story Melissa had crafted so carefully. Leela had spent the last 24 hours debating whether to walk away or stand her ground. In the end, she chose to show up, not to prove anyone wrong, but to remind herself she belonged. She stepped inside, the room going quiet for a moment as people turned to look. But she didn't flinch. She walked past the cameras, past the whispers, and stood beside her favorite piece. A portrait of a girl looking into a cracked mirror, still standing tall. She didn't smile. She didn't explain. She just let the art speak. Then, everything changed. Ryan walked in and headed straight for the stage. Without warning, he asked for the mic and addressed the crowd. He told the real story, not the one in the headlines. He spoke about Leela's strength, her talent, and how the world's obsession with image nearly crushed someone extraordinary. He then revealed something no one expected. Melissa had blackmailed the gallery, threatening to release fake stories about Ryan and Leela if they didn't play along. The audience gasped. But the final twist came when the gallery director interrupted, pulling up a message they'd just received. The anonymous tip that started it all. It wasn't from Melissa. It was from a former assistant of Ryan's, someone he once fired for unethical deals. The real puppet master had been in the shadows the whole time. And just like that, the truth flipped the story completely. The room fell into silence after the shocking reveal. Faces that had once looked at Leela with doubt now showed something else. Respect, maybe even admiration. The gallery director, clearly shaken, took the mic and apologized publicly to Leela for allowing her story to be twisted. They offered her a permanent spot in their upcoming shows, not because of her connection to Ryan, but because her art asterisk deserved asterisk to be seen. This time, the applause felt real. Leela didn't need to say much. She simply thanked the crowd, then turned to Ryan and whispered, "You didn't have to do that." He smiled and replied, "Yes, I did." The days that followed were filled with change. The assistant who had orchestrated the lies was exposed across multiple platforms, and their actions were condemned widely. Melissa disappeared from the headlines, her version of the story falling apart. Leela's social media quietly grew, not from controversy, but because people started to connect with her journey, her strength, her art, her truth. She went back to the cafe one last time, not to work, but to sketch by the window where it all began. People now looked at her differently, but she hadn't changed. She still wore the same old shoes, still tied her hair the same way. What changed was how she saw herself. Leela's story wasn't about being rescued by a millionaire. It was about someone the world called ugly choosing not to believe it anymore. She proved that beauty isn't filtered through popularity or money. It's found in courage, honesty, and showing up even when your voice shakes. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Leela closed her sketchbook, her heart full. Not every story needs a fairy tale ending. Sometimes, just being seen for who you truly are is enough.